So we call to order the meeting of the Planning Commission of the Town of Los Gatos for January 8th, 2014, the first meeting of the brand new year. And we have roll call.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Talasfor?
Here.
Commissioner Badami?
Here.
Commissioner Birch?
Here.
Vice Chair Smith?
Here.
Chair Erickson?
Here.
And Commissioner Sayoc has an excused absence.
Thank you. We welcome our newest Commissioner, Mary Badami, to the Commission and ask that everyone stand with her and join her in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Badami. We also have the privilege this evening to welcome to his first Planning Commission meeting, Robert Schultz, who is the new town attorney. So we welcome you, and we look forward to working with you, Rob, very much over the next few years. The town of Los Gatos strongly encourages active participation by the public in all of its meetings and the public process, which is a cornerstone of democracy and is a key part of how the public can help us do our job and in the appropriate way. There are several ways that members of the public can participate in the deliberations of the Planning Commission. The first is by providing written comments on agendized items prior to the meeting so that they can be incorporated in the packets that are developed for a particular meeting. The second are two opportunities at a particular Planning Commission meeting. The first is during what is called verbal communications, where members of the public can address the Commission on any issue which is not on the agenda for that meeting. And the second is on agendized items that during the public portion of the public hearing, where the public is invited and encouraged by this Commission to participate in providing us feedback on the items that are agendized for an evening's meeting. If you wish to speak on either during the verbal communications portion this evening or on one of the two agendized items this evening, we'd ask that you have, if you have not already, that you fill out a speaker's cards, which are found on the backs of the benches in the chamber audience area, and give it to the staff to our right so we can call you at the appropriate time. And I would ask that you print your name as clearly and legibly as possible, and I promise to try not to butcher it too badly if you help me by printing it clearly. So we have in the packets minutes from the November 13th, 2013 meeting of the Commission. Are there additions, corrections to the minutes? If not, the chair would entertain a motion for adoption. Commissioner Talasfor.
Hello. Yes, I will move that we approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting November 13, 2013.
Thank you, Commissioner Talasfor. Is there a second? Commissioner Birch.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion by Commissioner Talasfor, a second by Commissioner Birch to adopt the minutes as distributed from the November 13, 2013 meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We have no written communications, I believe. Is that correct, staff, tonight? There are no requested continuances this evening. In addition to their service on the Planning Commission, members of the committee serve on other town committees. There was a meeting of the Historic Preservation Committee earlier today, and Commissioner O'Donnell will give us a report on that meeting.
Yes, we met at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We considered three matters. I'll mention the third matter first because we really didn't consider it. An applicant had requested approval of some color changes on a portion of Old Town, but changed their mind, and so today they're going to paint it the same color it is, so we no longer had to consider that. We did consider two homes, one at 371 Pennsylvania Avenue. They had previously gotten approval for the work they wanted to do, but as they got into the work, they found out the condition of the property was not as good as they had hoped it would be, and they needed further approvals, which we granted to replace some problems with the condition of the property. Secondly, we considered a lovely home on 145 Glen Ridge Avenue. It's been there for a long time, and they wanted to make some changes which we discussed with the architect, and there was a give and take on that. We suggested some changes which were adopted, and we would like to think that the final product will be even better than the initial offering. So that was approved as modified. So that's a report from this afternoon.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. Are there questions for Commissioner O'Donnell? If not, thank you very much. We now move to the portion on the agenda called verbal communications, where members of the public are invited to address the commission on any issue which is not agendized. If we have one person who is turning a speaker's card to address us during verbal communications, Jeff Lockridge, and we call Jeff now. And if there's other people who would like to, we'd ask you at this point in time to bring us a card up so we can call on you at the appropriate moment.
Hi, my name is Jeff Lockridge. I live at Paseo Laura in Los Gatos. So I'm a little ashamed to say that I didn't get involved in our local government until November 2012. That particular subject was the AHAs and how our town handles affordable housing. Soon after, I was very surprised and very disappointed when I saw that our town council had approved the Albright development at 85 feet and 550,000 square feet and without an EIR. Luckily for the town, some concerned citizens were watching what was going on and had a bit of planning experience, so they took the only avenue open to them and sued the town to make sure that the project at least required an official EIR. When that project then came back in front of the Planning Commission, I was pleasantly surprised at the outcome of not recommended, as it was passed to the town council. I mistakenly assumed that with the Planning Commission's negative recommendation and just a tiny bit of common sense, that the project would be sent back to the Planning Commission for further modifications to bring it more in line with our general plan. Rather than that happening, though, our town council approved it. And even though it was somewhat of a compromise, the major portion of the compromise was for the town to swallow. At the time, it was hard for me to comprehend what had taken place. How had all that work that the Planning Commission put into trying to get the developer to modify his plans to keep it more in line with what our general plan calls for, be summarily flushed down the toilet as though their input was not important? Something here does not smell right, and I think it's time to change some things. I think that our town processes that allow a project that has a negative recommendation from the Planning Commission to ever be put in front of the town council for a vote should be changed. The Planning Commission's job is to assess whether a proposed project should be built or not, or whether it needs modifications to make it more suitable to fit in Los Gatos. A project should not go to the town council until it has a recommendation from a majority vote from the Planning Commission, and it should stay at the Planning Commission level until that happens. The Albright development, along with Laurel Mews and Bluebird Lane, are some of the town council's more recent admitted mistakes that the town residents will have to live with. Let's help them not to make any more. So I'm asking, what can we as residents do to make this important and necessary change happen? I don't know if that can be addressed now, but.
Not at this point at this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lockridge. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Planning Commission on items not on the agenda this evening? Seeing no one else coming forward, we'll move on the agenda. There are no items on the consent calendar this evening. There are no continued public hearings, so that brings us to agenda item number 1, which is a public hearing considering subdivision application M-13-010 and architectural site applications S-13071 and S-13080, which are requesting approval to subdivide a 20,300 square foot parcel into 2 lots to demolish a pre-1941 existing single-family residence and to construct 2 new single-family residences at 16560 Shannon Road on property which is zoned R-18. May I have a show of hands from commissioners who have visited the property under consideration? Everyone has. Are there any disclosures by a commissioner for this item? Seeing none, Ms. Walters, may we have a brief staff report?
Yes, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This property was removed from the Historic Resources Inventory by the Historic Preservation Committee due to the lack of historical and architectural significance to the structure, and the applicant proposes to subdivide the approximate 20,000 square foot lot into 2 separate lots. Lot 1 would be approximately 8,000 square feet and proposes a 2-story single-family home with an attached garage. The access to that garage would be off of Shannon Road, And Lot 2 proposes approximately 9,600 square foot lot with a two-story single-family home, and its access from the garage would be off of West La Chiquita Avenue. Staff and architectural consultant found the proposed architecture and massing compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and from an architectural standpoint. Staff has forwarded the applications as a package to the Planning Commission because the proposed single-family dwelling unit on Lot 2 would result in the largest square footage in the immediate neighborhood. And in addition, both proposed dwellings would create the largest FARs in the immediate neighborhood. Planning Commission should consider if the proposed FAR for both lots and the square footage for Lot 2 is compatible with the immediate neighborhood. And this concludes staff's presentation. I can answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walters. Are there questions for the staff at this time? Commissioner Talasfor.
It may seem like a simple question, and I realize that the Historic Committee deemed that it was not historically significant of a structure, but why was it demolished? I mean, were there any other reasons or extenuating circumstances that we don't know?
From what I understand, the applicant would like to subdivide the lot, and that lot line would be right in half of the existing home.
Are there other questions of the staff? Commissioner Badami.
What is the zoning designation for the property across the street for the church and the fire department?
It's zoned R18 as well, and its existing use is a church and then a fire department towards the corner.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of the staff at this time? Seeing none, we will now open the public portion of the public hearing and initially give the applicant an opportunity to address the commission for up to 5 minutes. I think we'd ask you to state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Greg Penn, 16560 Shannon Road. That's the address of the property, of course. I live in Saratoga at 15906 Cuvillé Way. We started this process about a year ago in acquiring the home that was there. The family that lived there for years and years decided to move on, and we purchased it and then annexed it into the city because it was county property, and have followed the procedure, worked with staff and with engineers and architects to get where we are today. We're had a great relationship working with staff and really proud of the project. And I'm here, to answer any questions, as is the building team that we're here with, the architect and the engineer. So if any questions, we're all available.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Are there questions of the applicant at this time? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I thought Chris Spalding would do it.
Hold on a second.
Through the chair, are they doing, that's the presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you said team and I didn't know, and then you looked at each other. Are you each going to take a turn or no?
Well, I think you can come back. Yeah, why don't you?
Okay.
Sorry, if not following proper
Thank you.
procedure. Hi, my name is Greg Simpson, and I'm also involved with the project. And I just want to note that actually Greg Penn and I walked the neighborhood several months ago and talked to past the immediate neighborhood and handed out the plans that are up on the wall, a letter stating kind of what was going on with the project, and if they had any questions to please contact us, that we would fully cooperate. And we're here to help the community and build a couple homes that blend in and would enhance the neighborhood, and so I just wanted to note that. And we've had no known opposition. The two neighbors to the immediate adjacent on West La Chiquita and on Shannon, I met personally with each of those neighbors, and the neighbor, one of them are going to speak tonight, and which is great. Thank you for coming. The neighbor on the other side, he had to travel for business, and Gil Perez, the immediate neighbor, and we met and chatted. His only concern was that some screening could be put up because his master bedroom faces the property. And actually, the property was designed with that thought in mind, and I showed him the plans and how the windows that face his property are actually the 2 bathroom windows and the stairwell window was it, and they're smaller windows, and that even made him more pleased. So he was definitely a supporter. He was going to come tonight and speak, but he had to travel. So I just wanted to make those couple notes, and if you have any questions, here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you.
Are there now, you still have time left on the clock, so anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant? Okay, we're done. Are there questions of the applicant or their applicant's representative? So, because the architect is here, Mr. Spalding is here as the architect for the project. Commissioner Telesfor.
Well, why don't I start out with somebody? I'll just address you here, I suppose. So as you're aware, we have to evaluate why these 2 structures are within the regulations for FAR in the immediate area, with one of the structures being whose square footage is over. So I would like to have someone come and talk to us about why they think this is compatible.
Chris Spalding, architect. Well, I'm sure you all drive up and down Shannon Road a lot. This is the part of town that's been a checkerboard of city and county, and you can tell, especially like on La Chiquita, where there's very large homes that are built under county jurisdiction and interspersed with the little houses that were built back in 1950 that were very not as grand as what people want today, let us say. So in doing this project, that's kind of our context, was that mixed, eclectic neighborhood, really. And if you look at our streetscape on for the corner lot, which is on A5, on the Shannon Road streetscape, for instance, it shows the mix of large houses and smaller houses that exist pretty much all up and down Shannon. And I think ours fit in nicely with the streetscape. The house that's on both the La Chiquita streetscape and the Shannon Road streetscape, we stepped the house down to a 1-story element as it adjoined the 1-story house that was on the immediate property, so that it didn't abruptly change from the 1-story to the larger 2-story. Also, the house that fronts Shannon Road is smaller, has a smaller 2nd story. It doesn't appear as a real large house, and when you go out and look at those story poles out there and you drive down Shannon Road, I mean, in my mind, they look like they fit in. In terms of square footage, yeah, technically, it's the largest within that small number of homes that we're allowed to or we're supposed to compare it to. But if you just go one house further in 2 directions, you get a bigger house. So I don't think this is out of context with the neighborhood.
I have a couple more questions. Thanks, Chris, for that. So it's 100. What is the square footage over in Lot 2? Isn't it Lot 2 that has the square footage that's over?
The corner lot is the bigger
right.
lot. Yeah.
So where is this extra or where is that square footage?
Where is it in the house itself?
Yes. That would be over. That would put it over.
Well, if you compare the 2 houses, you can see that on the larger of the 2, the great room is a little bigger, the master suite's a little bigger.
The which room is a little bigger?
Probably the bulk of the extra square footage is in the great room.
And that's in Lot 1 or 2?
It's
Lot 2.
Lot 2, the corner lot, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you could do to get that down in that room?
Well, I could always make a house smaller. There's a second story over it, so it's not a simple question of just slicing 100 square feet out. I'd have to rearrange things.
But it could be done.
Well, I can always redesign things.
Right. So did you ever consider a basement?
They did consider a basement and decided they'd prefer just to try to stick with an above-ground house and not try to go that route.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm looking at A5, and if you look at the first line and you show the houses, I was out there today walking around. I'm surprised that you think, and I'm surprised that apparently the staff thinks, that 2 stories on these 2 lots is compatible with the immediate neighborhood. If you look at your own drawing, there are 3 houses that are single story shown here. There's 1 house, and that really is, if I recall correctly, kitty corner across from the larger of your 2 lots. And it really looks out of place. And then if you look at your second line, again, 2 single-story houses with a church, but I don't know that we're supposed to scale up to a church. And then if you look at your third line, I mean, to me, those 2-story houses are not compatible with the neighborhood. Now, the suggestion that if you did, for example, put in a basement, you wouldn't need 2 stories, I think is true. I can understand the additional cost of doing that. But what is it about the neighborhood that makes you think that these 2 homes, and definition as we use neighborhood in Los Gatos, is consistent with and compatible with the neighborhood?
Well, there's other 2 stories there that are large 2-story houses.
You don't show them, though. It's just...
There's on the Shannon Road streetscape, there's 1. And on the La Chiquita, right across the street on La Chiquita, there's 1.
So there are 4 or 5 that are not, and there are 1, and then there are 4 or 5 that are not, and then there's 1.
Right.
And that's what you deem to be compatible? Is that the definition of neighborhood compatibility as you understand it in Los Gatos?
Well, if the neighborhood thinks it's compatible, I've stood up here before, I've heard commissioners say, well, if the neighborhood comes in and says that they don't think it's compatible, that you have to pay attention to that. If the neighborhood thinks this is just fine.
So have we polled the neighborhood? Are they going to come in and tell us what they voted for?
Well, some of them are here to talk.
Well, I've never done it this way, so I'm just kind of surprised by that approach. If, in fact, you think we do that, then I guess I'm just looking for your ballots.
Well, to me, the town's 5 houses always has seemed so arbitrary. And
that is our rule, isn't it?
I understand that. But it was somebody picked that 2 houses and we ignore everything past that. I think that's a little silly, personally.
Okay, so you'd like us to change the rule tonight?
No, I don't think you have that authority to change the rule. But what I'm saying is, when I look at these neighborhoods, I don't go like this at 2 houses.
Thank you.
Commissioner Birch.
Can I ask a clarifying question from staff? Just for everybody that's involved, would you please define the immediate neighborhood for what we use for these purposes?
This is a little bit more complicated because it's on a corner and we're looking at 2 lots. I can give you the addresses if that would be helpful, or generally. Okay, so in this case, across the street, it would be the church site, which isn't a single-family use at this point. It would also be the lot, the property that's to the west of the church site.
Okay.
And then on the side of the subject property, it would be the 2 homes to the west. It would also be the one property to the east at the corner of La Chiquita and Shannon. And then it would be the two properties behind the subject lots. And then it would also be the two, well, so basically it would be the three properties along West La Chiquita to the east. And it, from our records, there's two-story homes along West La Chiquita within that immediate neighborhood.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Commissioner Badami.
Okay, so when I went out there and did the math, with the 9 that are in the immediate neighborhood, and that's excluding the church and the fire department, because I think that's out of context in comparison. I did count two stories, so you do have 7 single stories in proportion to this particular development site.
Are there other questions of the staff or of the applicant at this time from any other commissioners? If not, we will now open the public portion of the public hearing to members of the public who would like to address us on this item. We have 2 cards for potential speakers at this point in time. If there's anyone else who hasn't turned a card in that would like to address us, we'd ask you to do it this time. We'd call on Lorraine Nunez first.
Good evening. My name is Lorraine Nunes, and I have resided on West La Chiquita for the last 63 years. My property borders the Shannon Project. I am here tonight to voice my support in favor of the development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nunes. We also have a card from Christopher Lane.
Good evening. I'm a resident here in Los Gatos, and I'm a 20-year member at the First Presbyterian Church of Los Gatos, which is across the street from this project. And for many years, I've been watching that place and just hoping that it would get cleaned up. And I just wanted to say I'm in public support of this in the neighborhood, and just wanted to say I hope to see the project go through and clean up that area and kind of bring it to the neighborhood standards that are around there.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Are there other members of the public that would like to address us at this time? If not, we would now give the applicant an additional 3 minutes to provide us an additional feedback that they have about the project.
Thanks. Now I'm regretting maybe not coming up at the very start of this with this gentleman and make a comment about certain issues and politics within the town. And if I were to do so, I would discuss the immediate neighborhood rule, because this is something staff and I spoke extensively about. As Mr. Spalding mentioned, the immediate neighborhood is not the 2 houses to the left, 2 houses to the right. And it's the neighborhood. And if you are to drive around the neighborhood and you were to do the math, you'd probably find just slightly fewer single-family homes as opposed to 2-story homes if you drive around the entire neighborhood there. One of the applicants I know that we spoke with that actually I believe wrote a letter has actually talked to me, asked if I do remodeling because he and his wife want to add on to their house. They live right on Shannon Road. They want to add a 2nd story. So this type of thing is going to be occurring. I'm baffled at this discussion about the church. You're going to comment on our project that we've spent a year on and also extensive time talking with the whole neighborhood about, but yet we're not considering the church as part of the neighborhood. This is a 4-story structure that would take up about 4 homes directly across the street. I think if we're going to talk about massing, I would think 2 single-story homes fits right in just fine. And clearly the neighbors and the neighborhood do as well, being by the lack of opposition to this project. In fact, there's favor for this project. Unless there's more questions, if there's any more questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Are there more questions for the applicant? Thank you very much. We'll now close the public portion of the public hearing, and I'll turn to commissioners for additional questions of the staff, comments, or potential motion. Commissioner O'Donnell.
More than one thing to consider, and obviously they're different. So we're supposed to consider the subdivision. We're supposed to consider the architectural site application and the demolition. So I and this is just some comments before a motion is made. I don't have any problem with the subdivision, and I don't have any problem with the demolition. I do, however, have a problem with the two-story houses. As far as I know, and I've been doing this for a number of years, the definition of neighborhood is something that the town has adopted. So we don't get to change it. And I don't know what you've talked to staff about, but they have the same books I do. I did walk the neighborhood. Now, we're very close to the county, and the county did some awful things in that neighborhood because they're the county and they didn't care. So I don't pay a lot of attention to those houses that the county did. But I just look at A4, and I recommend you do too. You drew it. It's fairly clear that the neighborhood is really a single-story neighborhood. And I will not be supporting the request to build two-story houses. So as I said, I'm favorable for two of the things that are being requested. I'm not favorable for the architectural site approval. So I just throw that out so I can get some comments from my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Talsfor.
Thank you. I would be in agreement of the subdivision application. It would continue that are to the properties facing out on Shannon Road. So to me, that pretty much puts it in line with all the other lots on that block between Englewood and West Street. However, what I will, and I will support in favor for many reasons, would be the architecture. And these are new homes. They're a blank canvas here, and you have our residential design guidelines to fit into that neighborhood. Yes, that is a neighborhood positive in transition, in upgrading and renovating, but we still have our guidelines that we refer to and we count on. And I didn't. Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. So anyway, what I would really have you pay attention to is if you do these craftsman style homes as well, some details that I would really have you pay attention to, and that would be the choice of the siding. What is there now that's going to be demolitioned is wood siding. What's traditional in craftsman is a wood siding of shingle or paneling, also stucco, so maybe there could be a combination. It also would lower height of homes as well. I would not support the additional square footage. I just couldn't do that. You don't need to do that. I haven't heard a compelling reason why you need that size. So I wouldn't support that. And then on, I would pay attention to garages. And are they step back? Are you using one garage door that emphasizes as it faces out to Shannon Road? I mean, we're supposed to avoid having garages dominate the facades of buildings. There's many ways you can do that by using one garage door that looks like it's divided into two. There's lots of things that can be done for the details of this. So you've got a blank slate here. I'd like to see it come back with more in keeping with the details of the architecture, and that would include wood siding and also the square footage.
Commissioner Birch.
So I find this to be a harder application. I appreciate the need to clean up that lot, and I was sitting on the historic committee when you came and we found the existing home okay to be demolished, which actually I believe is not in our scope here. That's already okay, right? All right. The concern is we can always argue about the definition of a neighborhood, but the fact of the matter is that was decided, and those are the rules that we have to govern by. And every neighborhood is different, so you can't say what's okay in this neighborhood is okay for that neighborhood. So our hands get tied when we look at the immediate neighborhood and the adjacent homes are all single story, and in the middle of it we're placing two-story homes. That said, there are a lot of options. I know people are not always keen to the basement. It does not affect your FAR. It can give you additional living space and can keep in with the neighborhood. And I wish more applicants would consider that option. I don't think that the massing on these two homes is in line with that neighborhood. And I think that there are options. Chris is an excellent architect. I know he can come up with many options that would reduce the massing and give you other options to make it more compatible with the neighborhood. And I would look forward to seeing that.
Other comments? Commissioner Telesfor.
Why don't I try a motion?
That'd be great.
I think I'm hearing what I needed to hear. Okay, so I would move, let me get this in front of me, that we approve and this will be one motion for both, right? Yeah, so we will approve the subdivision application M13010, and I can make the findings. The findings for a approval to subdivide a 20,300 square foot parcel into two lots, demolish a pre-1941 existing single-family residence, and construct two new single-family residents on a property zoned R-18. And the APM number is 532-04-001. I can make the findings required for CEQA, that the project is categorically exempt. I can make the required findings for the demolition of a single-family residence as required by Section 2910-09030E of the Town Code for the demolition of a single-family residence, and the required compliance with the the project is not required. Okay, so then for the architecture and site application, how do I do that? We would not, how would I do that? We would
Depends
not,
on what you want to do.
okay, and I would not approve, I would move that we not approve the architecture and site application for,
Commissioner Talsworth,
Yes.
could the chair make a suggestion?
what?
If I'm understanding you correctly, that what your intent is to enter a motion that would suggest approving the subdivision application, approving demolition
Yes.
of the thing. I would make that a single motion and then do a second motion to address the architectural site
All right.
application.
I thought I was going to try to wrap it all together.
But
Mr.
before you do
Paulson,
that,
do you
I think it
have-
may be a little too complicated to try to wrap it together, and actually the demolition will go with the ANS for the two homes. So we can put a condition on the subdivision that the demolition has to occur prior to recording the map, but I would just start with the subdivision, and then you can do what you would like with the architecture and site application.
Okay, all right, so I will stop there. And that is my motion.
how about if you start over from us and tell us exactly what you want to do? What? Well, just so we're clear what the motion is at this point in time.
Okay, the motion is, I would move that we, to deny the, approve the subdivision, sorry, okay, I am really good, all right. That we're going to approve that, okay, start over. That we approve the subdivision application M-13-010 for the reasons stated prior to this. Do I have to do that? I can make those findings. Okay? Stop.
Okay, we have a motion in front of us by Commissioner Talsfor to approve the subdivision application in front of us. Commissioner Birch.
I'll second that motion.
Second that motion. Are there any additional comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay.
So we still have the architectural site applications in front of us.
Okay, I'll continue.
Let me just ask a question. Did that motion, I'm sorry, I must,
Yeah.
did you also include the CEQA findings?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
And then I would move that we deny architecture and site applications S-13-071, architecture and site applications S-13-080, for the, where are those findings? And may I ask the question of Joel?
Sure.
The demolition part of that, would that go here? Is that what you said? No, that's a
Demolition-
condition in the.
The demolition is part of the
the
architecture and site
subdivision,
application.
okay. All right. Okay, where am I? I think that's it, and I can, yeah, I can't make the findings to support architecture and site.
Okay, we have a motion in front of us to deny the two architectural site applications in front of us by Commissioner Telesfor. Is there a second? Commissioner Birch.
I will second that motion.
Commissioner Birch seconds that motion. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Smith.
Right here.
Yes, I want to make the comment that one of the things that was not raised this evening, although it's very apparent when you look at the lot sizes, is that the smaller lots have the two-story homes. To have a 12,000 or in one case 14 or 15,000 square foot lot enables someone to put a single-story home on that would be of a size that would fit a family. So as I took a look at the situation, I really thought to myself, these are going to be smaller lots, and other than going into a basement, you know, how would one build a home of a reasonable size? And frankly, I think 146 square feet could be shaved off of the 3,000 square foot home, and it wouldn't detract from it. So I did not see that as it's something that the builder wouldn't ultimately accommodate. So with that, I just want to make a comment that I did read the comments also of our consulting architect, Mr. Cannon, and he was comfortable with the size and mass of the buildings and the design, and I do think the designs were very good. So I was not as quick to rush to judgment as my fellow commissioners that a two-story home would be inappropriate for the lot. So I just wanted to make those comments.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm wondering, and I'll direct this up to the town attorney, I guess. We don't state any reasons in the motion to deny as to why we're denying, and I wonder whether we should or not. We've heard varying reasons for the denial, and not all of us voting for the denial have exactly the same reasons. So I'd like to include multiple reasons. If in fact this is appealed to the town council, I would like it to be clear to the council why it was denied. So either, I'm sure the maker of the motion would be glad to add that, but I'm just directing the question to the town attorney. Is that something we should include?
You certainly can do that in your motion, but if you do not, then it's part of the record and would go up with the record to council if it is appealed.
I think one of the things I did
Commissioner
state.
Palsbury.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think one of the things I did state in the original motion that I had to disband was that it did not meet the required compliance with the residential design guidelines. As far as, I mean, garages, square footage, fitting in with the ambiance of the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood, the garage facades, blah, blah. I mean, there's many. So that's one of the things. Okay.
Other comments on the motion? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Well, just amplifying that, my basic reason for wanting to deny this is because of the two stories. So this motion then, I guess, would encompass both the design, which the maker of the motion has highlighted, and I believe the fact that it's a two-story rather than a one-story. The definition of neighborhood, which we've discussed, is fairly clear, notwithstanding this report, which seems to suggest that's a decision that the town architect can make. I don't think it is. Staff seems to think it's a neighborhood too. I think that's wrong. So if this gets appealed, we'll get some answers to those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? The chair would simply add that my sense is I don't see that it's not consistent with the residential design guidelines other than for the incompatibility for the second story. Are there other comments? If not, we have a motion in front of us by Commissioner Talsford that was seconded by Commissioner Birch to deny both of the architectural site applications in front of us. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The vote was 4-1 with Commissioner Smith voting no. Are there appeal rights, Mr.
There are
Paulson?
appeal rights. Anyone who's not satisfied with the decision on either of the applications can appeal that decision to the town council. The forms are available in the clerk's office. The appeal must be filed within 10 days, and there is a fee for filing the appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing to accept public comment on the draft environmental impact report for a request for a general plan amendment from public to office and a plan development for 45 residential units at 375 Knowles on property which is currently zoned 0, specifically General Plan Amendment CP 13001, Plan Development Application PD 13002, and Environmental Impact EIR 13003. As required by the California Environmental Quality Act, this public hearing is being held during the 45-day public notice period of the draft environmental impact report for the proposed plan development at 375 Knowles. The notice of availability for review of the draft EIR was released on December 3rd, 2013, with the 45-day review period ending on January 17th, 2014. This public hearing is an opportunity for members of the public to provide verbal comments on the completeness and adequacy of the draft EIR. Written comments will be accepted until the close of the public review period on January 17th, 2014. This public hearing is not intended for consideration of the proposed project or for certification of the draft EIR. The Planning Commission may in fact not act on the merits of the proposed project until the final EIR has been prepared. Following the public hearing this evening and the close of the 45-day public review period on January 17th, 2014, staff and the town's environmental consultant will respond to all written comments received by the end of the public review period and to the testimony received tonight at the Planning Commission meeting. Responses to the comments will be included in the final EIR, which will incorporate any revisions to the draft EIR necessitated by the comments that are received. Staff, do you have any additional comments to make at this time?
No, staff has no additional comments.
Thank you very much. Are there questions of the staff from any commissioners before we proceed to invite the public to comment? If not, we only have one member of the public who has indicated an interest in commenting tonight at the public hearing, so we would call Jeff Lockridge.
All I got to say, we need more participation in this town. I looked through the draft EIR and had the following questions. Why is the developer requesting a change to the zoning and then asked for a plan development to make further changes? It doesn't make sense to me. What would be used to determine, number two, what would be used to determine the maximum density of the project? Number three, assuming that the lot on the corner of Capri and Knowles is developed as a medical building, is it good land use practice to shove a residential development in between medical office buildings? Number four, would it be better from a traffic standpoint to have office or residential? Number five, is there another more appropriate use for this site? Number six, As far as the planned development is concerned, does this project represent excellence in architectural design or site design? And 7, how will the traffic be mitigated? Traffic is a real concern in this area, and even a medium-density residential development here will be difficult to mitigate. One suggestion might be to have all the traffic exit onto Capri. At least there's a traffic light to deal with the incoming traffic onto Knowles. One thing is for sure, though, any development here will cause an already bad traffic area to become worse. According to the Los Gatos general plan regarding the traffic impact mitigation fee, the developer shall pay a fee proportional to the project's share of transportation improvement needed to serve cumulative development within the town of Los Gatos. The fee amount will be based upon the town council resolution in effect at the time the building permit application is made. The fee shall be paid before the building permit is issued. After comparing Los Gatos traffic mitigation fees with those of our neighboring communities, I found that Los Gatos fees were the absolute lowest at $1 per square foot of new development, versus more than $12 per square foot for some of our neighbors. The town staff is currently reviewing our extremely low and badly outdated traffic mitigation fees and are expected to present a more reasonable fee for the town council's approval in the next few months. I sincerely hope that this project is delayed enough so that the new fee will be in place before the building permit application is made. If this residential development does go through, I would hope to see an increased setback for the lots fronting Knowles and Capri, keeping the shorter units in this frontage area and any taller units to be located near the back of the development, and a little more Los Gatos charm architectural treatment. So, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lockridge. Yeah. You could identify yourself with your address, please.
I just have a brief comment. I'm Ann Robinson. I'm in Charter Oaks, and I do work on Knowles. So I do drive that street every day. One of the concerns I have with the planned development overlay is the setbacks, the reduced setbacks that are allowed with a planned development. I do know that the current setbacks for the medical at like 555 Knowles, which is about 25 feet, and then the other building that's going to be probably built by El Camino on Knowles and Capri, that will be 25 feet. But the setbacks that are allowed for this planned development are on Knowles is around 11 to 13 feet. So I kind of get the idea that when I'm driving down Knowles, I'm going to have a medical building on Knowles and Capri at 25 feet, and then I'm going to have this residential area at 11 to 13 feet, and then another medical office at 25 feet. So I guess it doesn't seem compatible to me to be driving down the street and seeing these two medical buildings set back and then having a residential development closer to the street. So that's one of my concerns about the planned development and reducing the setbacks. The other thing that bothers me about the recent developments is that is the setbacks, the closeness to the streets, like the Laurel Mews and the one on, what's it called? Swanson, thank you. The Swanson is, when I look at the terraces, for example, that's a planned development. But when you drive down Blossom Hill and you see the terraces, you don't see the terraces, right? You see big trees, you see setbacks, you have the garages that are one story that are closest to the street. That to me is appropriate. I mean, I don't get blasted by these homes that are really close. So that's just the only comment that I have that I didn't see discussed was the compatibility of the adjacent buildings and the setbacks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Are there other members of the public who would like to address us about the draft EI? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public portion of the public hearing for the draft EI report. The Planning Commission would like to thank the members of the public who spoke this evening and those who have provided written comments to date on the project. A reminder to the public that written comments will be accepted by the staff of the Community Development Park Department until the end of the 45-day review period, which is January 17, 2014. And we would strongly encourage you, if you have an interest in the project, to provide those comments to the staff before the end of the 45-day review period. The public hearing by the Planning Commission for consideration of the proposed project and the final EIR has not yet been scheduled. The staff anticipates, however, that it's likely to be in the month of March 2014. The Town Council is the deciding body for the proposed general plan amendment and certification of the EIR and the proposed plan development, with the Planning Commission, following its hearing, making a recommendation to the Town Council. Again, if you have an interest in this project, we would encourage you to pay attention to when the actual public hearing in front of the Planning Commission is scheduled, so that you will have the opportunity to provide the comments at that meeting. And we would also encourage you, if you're interested, to make written comments prior to that public meeting so that they can be incorporated as part of the packet of information that's considered at the Planning Commission meeting. Are there any additional comments from staff? Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the election of the Planning Commissioner Chair. So the chair would like to nominate Margaret Smith to serve as chair of the Planning Commission in 2014. Do we have a second to the nomination of Commissioner Smith to serve as chair? Commissioner O'Donnell? We have a second. Are there other nominations for chair in 2014? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Commissioner Smith is elected unanimously. I'll pass the gavel to Commissioner Smith, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Erickson. And I want to tell you that I really appreciate your stewardship this past year of the Planning Commission, and it's been my pleasure to sit beside you and learn from you the leadership skills necessary, including banging the gavel, which I'm not quite prepared to do yet. I have the pleasure of nominating a commissioner for vice chair, and I nominate Commissioner Kendra Birch. Commissioner Birch has demonstrated an intelligent, well-informed approach to the issues that have come before the commission since her appointment last year. And my nomination is in keeping with the practice of the commission to enable newer commissioners who have demonstrated these qualities to have an opportunity to rotate into the vice chair and chair positions. So do I have a second to that nomination?
I'll second that nomination.
Mr. Former Chair. The nomination has been seconded. Any comments? Any other nominations? All in favor? Aye. And it passes unanimously. So, Commissioner Birch, congratulations to you. I believe that in your usual way of preparing everything for us, yes? No? Did you wish to say something? No?
I don't, because I'm not sure what you're about to say. So go ahead and continue.
Well, I'm about to say that I believe that we have had all of the reports that we're going to have, unless you have a report for us, Mr. Paulson?
There was one last brief report, the director's report. Since we last met in December, the DRC has held one meeting. There were 4 items that were approved on that agenda. One was at 150 Central Avenue, which was requesting approval to demolish an existing single-family home and build a new single-family home. That was approved. There was also requesting approval of a technical demolition and construction of a new single-family residence at 268 Las Moradas. The third item was at 111 East Main Street, was an architecture and site application for exterior modifications to the building across the street from Town Hall for Summit Bicycles. And the final one was an architecture and site approval for exterior modifications to an existing commercial building and parking lot improvements at the shopping center at the corner of Union and Los Gatos Almaden, where the Safeway is. Additionally, the council held a meeting on December 16th where they held a study session regarding potential leaf blower regulations. They provided direction to staff, and that is anticipated to come back in the spring this year. They also, as is evidenced by Commissioner Badami, they appointed members to various boards, commissions, and committees that evening. They also reviewed the application at 16268 Los Gatos Boulevard that this commission approved for the new office building at that location. The commission remanded that back to the Planning Commission with some specific directions. So depending on what the applicant chooses to do, that probably will be coming back soon, addressing that specific direction, and that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Do any members of the commission have additional items they wish to bring to the attention of the commission? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.